He abandoned her and their children to chase money. Years later, she bought his mansion. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Laura stood frozen in the doorway of the cramped, dimly lit apartment that had become her refuge. In her trembling hands, she held the divorce papers that Michael, her husband of 10 years, had so casually delivered. The man who had once promised her the world had now reduced their marriage to a stack of legal documents. "This is for the best," he had said, his voice cold, devoid of any remorse. The children were asleep in the next room, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Laura bit her lip to stifle a sob. She couldn't let them see her like this. She was their anchor, and no matter how hard the storm raged, she needed to stay steady. But it was difficult to mask the anguish tearing her apart. Michael had always been ambitious, a trait that had first drawn her to him. When they were young, she had admired his drive, his endless plans for a future filled with wealth and success. He wasn't content with ordinary. He wanted to be extraordinary, and Laura had believed in him. She had supported him through years of long work hours, risky investments, and countless late nights spent strategizing over coffee-stained papers. She had stayed by his side when the bills piled up and their bank account dwindled, trusting that his sacrifices would one day pay off. But Michael's ambition had turned into greed, and that greed had transformed him into someone Laura no longer recognized. His dreams of success became an obsession, and his family became collateral damage. He stopped coming home for dinner. He missed the kids' birthdays, their school plays, and the small, meaningful moments that made life worth living. When Laura confronted him, he dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. "I'm doing this for us," he would say, though it was clear that us no longer included her or their children. Then came the betrayal. Laura discovered the affair through a series of careless clues, late-night text messages, unexplained absences, and a perfume scent that wasn't hers lingering on his shirts. When she finally confronted him, he didn't deny it. Instead, he looked her in the eye and said, "I need someone who matches my drive, someone who understands what it takes to succeed. You've grown comfortable." Comfortable. The word stung like a slap. Laura had sacrificed everything for their family, and now she was being cast aside like an old coat that no longer fit his image. She couldn't compete with the allure of his new life. The fancy dinners, the sleek cars, the high-rise office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He had moved on, leaving her to pick up the shattered pieces of their life. In the days that followed, Laura moved out of their home, taking only what she could carry and what was necessary for the kids. She sold the rest, unwilling to hold on to anything that reminded her of Michael's betrayal. The money she earned from the sale barely covered the deposit on their tiny apartment, but it was a start. For the first time in years, she was on her own, and the weight of that reality was both terrifying and liberating. With no formal education beyond high school and years spent as a stay-at-home mom, Laura had few options. She took on odd jobs, babysitting, cleaning houses, even waitressing on weekends to make ends meet. Every spare moment she had was spent sketching and dreaming of a better future. Laura had always loved interior design. It was her passion, the thing that made her feel alive. But she had put those dreams aside to support Michael's career. Now, with nothing left to lose, she decided to pursue them. Her first client was a neighbor who needed help redecorating a small living room. Laura threw herself into the project with all the energy and creativity she could muster. She worked late into the night, poring over magazines and watching online tutorials to hone her skills. When the project was finished, the neighbor was thrilled, and word began to spread. Soon, Laura was getting calls from friends of friends, and her small side hustle began to grow. Meanwhile, Michael's star continued to rise, or so it seemed. His social media accounts were filled with photos of extravagant vacations, luxurious dinners, and his new girlfriend, a glamorous woman with a dazzling smile and a penchant for designer dresses. He had purchased a sprawling mansion in the city, a testament to his newfound success. Laura avoided looking at the photos, but they always seemed to find their way to her through mutual acquaintances or curious whispers at the school drop-off line. "Have you seen what Michael's been up to?" people would ask, their voices laced with equal parts awe and pity. Laura refused to let the gossip get to her. She had no time to dwell on Michael's life. She was too busy building her own. Every job she took on, no matter how small, was a step toward independence. Her designs were creative and personal, tailored to each client's unique taste. People loved her attention to detail and her ability to transform even the dullest spaces into works of art. Her reputation grew, and with it came bigger projects and more prestigious clients. Her children, too, began to thrive under her care. They saw their mother's resilience and drew strength from it. Laura made sure to be present for them in ways Michael never was. She attended every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game, every school recital. She wanted them to know that they were her priority, no matter how busy she became. Years passed, and Laura's business blossomed into a full-fledged enterprise. Laura Mendez Design became a sought-after name in the industry, known for its elegance, innovation, and warmth. She was no longer the struggling single mother scraping by. She was a successful entrepreneur with a growing portfolio of high-profile projects. One day, while reviewing her schedule, Laura received an unexpected call from a bank representative. A wealthy client had recommended her for a major renovation project, a mansion that had fallen into disrepair and needed to be restored before it could be put on the market. The bank was eager to work with her and offered a generous budget for the project. Laura accepted without hesitation, excited by the challenge. When she arrived at the address the next morning, she felt her breath catch in her throat. The mansion loomed before her, its once grand facade now weathered and overgrown with ivy. But it wasn't just any mansion, it was Michael's mansion. Laura stepped out of her car, her heels crunching against the gravel driveway as she took in the sight before her. The mansion, once a pristine monument to wealth and success, now stood forlorn and neglected. Cracks ran along the stucco walls, and the grand double doors were faded and chipped. The overgrown garden, once lush and manicured, now looked like it had been abandoned for years. Her pulse quickened. This house had been the crowning jewel of Michael's empire, the very symbol of the life he had chosen over her and their children. She remembered the photos he had posted proudly on social media. The grand staircase, the crystal chandeliers, the sprawling backyard with its infinity pool. At the time, she had tried to push the images out of her mind, burying the pain under layers of determination to build a new life. But now, standing here, the memories came rushing back. The bank representative met her at the door, clipboard in hand. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Mendez. As you can see, the property has seen better days," he said with a polite but strained smile. "The previous owner defaulted on the mortgage, and it's been sitting vacant for quite some time. We're hoping your touch can breathe new life into it. The goal is to restore it to its original grandeur, or better." Laura nodded, masking her inner turmoil. "Course. I'll put together a proposal and timeline for the project." As she stepped inside, the air felt heavy with the echoes of a life long abandoned. The once gleaming marble floors were dull and scuffed, the ornate crown moldings were chipped, and cobwebs clung to the corners of the high ceilings. Laura walked through the house slowly, taking mental notes and snapping photos with her phone. Every room told a story, one of neglect, decay, and the inevitable collapse of a dream built on shallow foundations. She couldn't help but wonder what had led to this. Michael had been so certain of his success, so consumed by his ambition. What had gone wrong? She pushed the thought aside. It wasn't her concern anymore. Her focus was on the job, a job that would pay handsomely and add yet another high-profile project to her portfolio. But as the days turned into weeks, Laura found herself feeling a strange sense of catharsis. The renovation process became more than just a professional challenge. It became a personal reclamation. She threw herself into every detail, from selecting the perfect shade of paint for the walls to sourcing antique fixtures that would complement the mansion's original design. She brought in her best contractors and designers, working tirelessly to transform the space into something truly remarkable. The house slowly came back to life under her care. The once dull marble floors gleamed after a thorough restoration. The chandeliers, meticulously cleaned and rewired, sparkled like new. The overgrown garden was tamed and replanted with vibrant flowers and lush greenery. Laura's signature style, elegant, warm, and inviting, infused every corner of the mansion. As she worked, Laura couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The woman who had once been left with nothing was now at the helm of a thriving business, restoring the very house that had once symbolized her husband's betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on her. One afternoon, as Laura was reviewing blueprints in what had once been the grand dining room, one of her contractors approached her with a curious expression. "Ms. Mendez, you might want to see this," he said, holding up a crumpled envelope he had found tucked behind a loose panel in the wall. Laura took the envelope and carefully opened it. Inside was a stack of papers, old financial statements, invoices, and personal notes. As she scanned the documents, a picture began to emerge. Michael's business empire hadn't been as solid as he had made it seem. The mansion had been purchased on borrowed money, and his flashy lifestyle had been funded by risky loans and over-leveraged investments. When the market turned against him, everything had come crashing down. She felt a pang of something, not quite pity, but a muted sadness for the man he had been. He had gambled everything, including his family, on a dream that had ultimately betrayed him. But any lingering sympathy was overshadowed by a deep sense of satisfaction. Michael's downfall was his own doing, and Laura owed him nothing. The project neared completion, and the mansion was transformed into a masterpiece. The bank was thrilled with the results, and Laura's reputation soared even higher. But before the property could be listed, Laura received an unexpected email from the bank. "The house is being offered to a select group of buyers," it read. "As the lead designer, you have the first option to purchase." Laura stared at the screen, her heart pounding. The idea was bold, almost unthinkable. But as she considered it, a slow smile spread across her face. Why not? She had the means, and there was something poetic about reclaiming the house that had once symbolized her pain. It wasn't just about owning the property. It was about rewriting its story. Without hesitation, she replied to the email. "I'll take it." The paperwork was finalized within weeks, and Laura became the official owner of the mansion. She brought her children to see it on a bright Saturday morning, their eyes wide with wonder as they explored the grand halls and sprawling gardens. "This is ours?" her daughter asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Laura smiled and pulled her children close. "Yes, it's ours. And it's just the beginning." But the story wasn't over yet. News of Laura's purchase spread quickly, and it wasn't long before Michael came knocking, literally. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The sun filtered through the tall windows of the mansion's grand living room as Laura sat on the plush sofa, reviewing designs for her next project. Her children played outside, their laughter echoing through the garden. Life had found a steady rhythm, one Laura had fought hard to create. The mansion, now hers, was more than a home. It was a testament to her resilience and success. The sound of the doorbell shattered the calm. Laura frowned, not expecting visitors. Rising from the sofa, she made her way to the grand double doors. When she opened them, her breath caught. Michael stood on the doorstep, looking nothing like the man she once knew. His tailored suits and confident swagger had been replaced by a rumpled jacket and weary eyes. He clutched a worn briefcase. His posture hunched as if the weight of his mistakes rested squarely on his shoulders. "Laura," he began, his voice shaky. "What are you doing here, Michael?" she interrupted, her tone sharp but controlled. His eyes darted past her, taking in the opulent interior of the mansion. I heard you bought the house." Laura crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You did. Is that a problem?" "No," he said quickly, shaking his head. I needed to see you. To explain." She raised an eyebrow. "Explain what?" "That you left me and our kids to chase a fantasy. That you threw away everything we had for this house, only to lose it." Michael winced, his face etched with regret. "I know I made mistakes, big ones, but I didn't come here to make excuses. I came to ask for help." Laura stared at him, disbelief washing over her. "Help," she echoed, her voice dripping with incredulity. "You must be joking." "I've lost everything, Laura," he said, his voice cracking. "The business, the money, the house, it's all gone. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I'm drowning in debt. I don't know where else to turn." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "And you think I'm your lifeline? After everything you put me through?" "I was wrong," he admitted, his shoulders slumping. "I was selfish and blind. I thought money would solve everything, but it didn't. I lost you, I lost the kids. And I lost myself. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you, Laura. Please." For a moment Laura said nothing, her gaze steady and unyielding. She could see the desperation in his eyes, the hollow shell of the man he had become. Part of her felt vindicated, but another part, one that had grown stronger through years of hardship, felt nothing at all. "I built this life without you," she said finally, her voice calm and measured. "You abandoned me and our children when we needed you most. And now you come crawling back because you've hit rock bottom. I'm sorry, Michael, but you made your choices. Now you have to live with them." His face crumpled, the weight of her words landing like a hammer blow. "Laura, please," he whispered. "I'll do anything. Just give me a chance to make things right." She sighed, stepping aside to let him see the life she had created. The gleaming floors, the elegant furniture, the walls adorned with her children's artwork. It was a far cry from the life he had walked away from. "This house used to symbolize everything I lost," she said, her voice steady. "Now it represents everything I've gained. And none of it has anything to do with you." Michael opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, the sound of footsteps interrupted them. Laura turned to see her son and daughter approaching, their faces bright with curiosity. "Who's that?" her son asked, tilting his head. Laura hesitated, the question hanging heavy in the air. She knelt down, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "This is someone I used to know," she said simply, her voice soft yet firm. "Someone who made choices that taught me how strong we could be." Michael's eyes welled with tears as he looked at the children he had abandoned. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry." But the children didn't respond. They simply stood by their mother, their loyalty clear. Laura straightened, her expression unyielding. "Goodbye, Michael," she said, closing the door with finality. As the door clicked shut, Laura leaned against it, exhaling deeply. She had faced the man who had once broken her, and she had come out stronger. The mansion, once a monument to Michael's betrayal, was now a symbol of her triumph. Her children ran back to the garden, their laughter filling the air once more. Laura returned to the living room, a sense of peace settling over her. She had built this life brick by brick, fueled by love, determination, and a refusal to let the past define her. Outside, Michael stood on the doorstep for a long moment, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his regret. The life he had once discarded now seemed like a distant dream, one he would never reclaim. Inside the mansion, Laura sat down at her desk, a small smile playing on her lips. She had reclaimed her power, her dignity, and her future. The mansion was hers, but more importantly, so was her freedom. And for Laura, that was the greatest victory of all. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story.